Well, we'll find out soon enough. I'll keep looking around online, I guess. Hospital records, all news reports, etc., etc. If we assume there's been some kind of cover-up, I can use that too. Try and look for the empty places where information should be, but isn't. That sounds like a plan, Futaba. And since everyone's been having a grand old emoji-filled time here, I'd just like to remind you all that Akira is comatose and alone, and might be dying for all we know, and that we don't know how to help him, or even how to start. There, reminder made. Futaba. We are all fully aware of how serious this is, but we cannot allow ourselves to despair before we've even begun. Yeah, Futaba. Just think about how Akira would be acting if one of us had come down with his Paranoia Syndrome thing. He'd be so chill about it that it'd drive the rest of us nuts. It would drive him into a similar panic, I believe. God, we'd be all, Akira, the whole world is going to literally explode in 12 hours. You sure you don't want to go to the palace? And he'd be all, nah, it's cool, it's fine, this is fine, everything's fine. Fun fact, fine is another word for an acronym that is a acronym for the phrase fucked up in nearly every way. Or fucked in nearly every way. If it's fine, it's not foobar. And if it's not foobar, it's fine. If it's fucked in nearly every way, then it's not fucked up beyond all repair. And then he'd save the day anyway. Basically that. All of us are upset over what's happened. Akira is a lot more than just our leader, after all. So I think it's about time we proved how much he really means to us. If there's any way to fix this, then we'll fix it. I'm going to give it my all. Same. Ditto. Okay, sorry. I flew off the handle, I guess. I'm just gonna go to bed. Futaba, are you going to be alright? No, I'm not. Futaba Sakura is now offline. Makes me remember how they all banded together to free Ren from juvenile hall. And it took them 2 months, but they didn't quit. I doubt they quit now. She often viewed the world through layers of abstraction. It was a coping mechanism of sorts. After so much time shut up in her room, the real world had been too much all at once. It needed some kind of buffer, a smear of concealing grease between herself and all that color and noise. In a way, it wasn't too different from what happened in the palaces. She distorted the world into something more recognizable, something she could control. Video game mechanics usually did the trick. Experience points, leveling up, key items, status effects, party members, they all applied to her daily routine well enough, and when she talked about it out loud, people seemed to find it the good kind of funny, instead of the uncomfortable kind. As time went on, she weaned herself off the habit, but still found herself slipping back into it when things got stressful. But right now, video games didn't seem to adequately capture what was going on inside her. This was an issue of hardware, not software. Open up the case and there was nothing too serious. Power supply, adequate. CPU, nominal. RAM, please, she had more memory than she knew what to do with. But right now, everything seemed to be on standby. An issue with fully booting up. Questions asked of her in Miss Kawakami's class had decreased by 100%. She'd been dimly aware of this, even as she'd sat quietly in the back of the room, legs pulled up to her chin, the class muttering about her, about Tsukiko, about paranoia this and that. all her voices oddly muffled. A sound card issue? It was possible. This system already had a history of motherboard problems. When Kawakami called her into the guidance office after school, she'd shown up without protest. The office was empty except for the two of them. The monuments of paperwork scattered across the teachers' desks ruffled softly in the ventilator's breeze. Miss Chono's desk had a novelty hula dancer figurine at the corner that waggled its hips as Futaba passed by. She hated it immediately. "Hi, Futaba," said Kawakami. She was smiling, but even Futaba could see that it took visible effort. After Tsukiko's collapse, the class had been understandably distracted, and this wasn't even the first media circus she'd had to endure that year. Kamoshida. Kobayakawa. "Good afternoon, Miss Kawakami." Volume playback functional. "Please take a seat." A metal folding chair was set up beside Kawakami's. Futaba perched on it in her usual way and faced forward. Kawakami spent several seconds worriedly plucking the hem of her skirt before she spoke. "I'm sorry I didn't ask you to come sooner," she said. "After what happened with Tsukiko, I should have met with you right away." "It's all right. It really isn't. No one should have to go through what you did that afternoon, or Tsukiko herself for that matter." She sighed, brushed a stray spring coil of hair away from one eye. "Futaba, I'm going to be blunt. You might have been out of school for a while before you came to Shujin, but you're fitting in really well and your grades are, well, bulletproof wouldn't be overstating it. No one's going to blame you if you decide to take a little time off. How's your father?" "Sojiro? He's fine, I think." After getting the call from Akira's parents, she hadn't seen him making coffee as much. Whether at the bar or the cafe, he was always glued to the TV news, his face stony. He gave her space. He was familiar with her specifications. "Maybe you should spend a little quality time with him instead of sitting around here. I can ask, or demand, really, that Chono and the rest share their notes when you come back so you don't miss anything." Her eyes lit up. She seemed to arrive at a bright idea. "Or, I know, why not get back in touch with Akira? This is usually a slow period for classes, so I'm sure he'd be happy to take a weekend and..." "Oh, sorry, I didn't tell you. Akira's in a coma." Kawakami froze. Her smile stayed where it was, but the rest of her face seemed to run away from it. Futaba's voice remained calm. "CPU cycles minimal. Temperatures low." "I know that you two were pretty close. Akira kept telling me how much you helped him out in class. And I have about 6 hours of footage of you coming into the cafe and calling him Master." She didn't add, because normal people weren't supposed to know things like that. "Maid." "Sorry, I guess I made you upset." Kawakami's mouth opened and shut for several more seconds. Futaba stared and said nothing. "Possible audio input malfunction? No, the ventilator's thrummed as always." "God, Futaba, forget about me," she said at last. Her eyes were overbright. "Why didn't you say anything? You shouldn't be coming to school like this. You and Akira are practically family." "I mean, it only just happened." The ventilator hummed and hummed, but she seemed to be heating up anyway. Internal fan malfunction, possibly. "A little bit after Tsukiko. I just talked to him about it and... Oh. She raised her head, glasses glinting. Internal diagnostics running. Futaba? Kawakami asked. What is it? Diagnostic complete. Slowly, she unfolded her legs and sat normally, staring through Kawakami. When she spoke, her voice was distant and low. I figured out why I've been feeling like this, she explained. You know how my mom committed suicide and everyone said it was my fault? Oh, I guess maybe you didn't. You're crying harder. Anyway, I thought this wasn't as bad, but I just realized it happened when I told Akira about Paranoia Syndrome. So maybe he only caught it because I told him about it. Stranger things have happened, you know? So it might be my fault. Stuttering now. Glasses fogging. Glitches in both audio and visual output. This room was much too warm. I mean... She started to hiccup. I thought I'd gotten over it, but now I'm feeling the same way I did before. So I'm sorry if I've been disrupted at the class. I just needed a little more time to figure this out because I don't understand why this keeps happening to me and... Kawakami reached out and hugged Futaba close as her words dissolved completely. The hulu dancer waggled insensibly as she wielded her teacher's sweater. Full audio failure. Catastrophic system error. And as Kawakami tried to soothe her, she just cried harder because none of it was working. There was no machine, and this wasn't a game. All she had was the truth. And the truth was that Akira wouldn't wake up, and she didn't know what to do. God. The Tokyo Metro at the cusp of its closing. The midnight train's ready to depart. At this time of night, the lights felt false, and the shadows full and tangible as silk. What travelers remained were often furtive and silent, and here as everywhere else, more and more of them wore masks against sicknesses unknown. The lights thrummed over a rank of escalators standing empty and still. At the top of these paralyzed steps, a pair of deep blue eyes stared and stared. I knew it, he said. There's something here. Shortly afterwards, the entrances to the metro were sealed. The underground turned into a cage. The lights snapped off and left only shadows behind. Morgana was long gone. Yes! Finally! Morgana's coming, folks. He's coming, and he might have a good idea of how to get to the bottom of this Paranoia Syndrome. It looks like the investigation has taken a turn, and we finally have a lead. Hopefully. Maybe. But we'll find that out next weekend. Until then, I hope to see you all there. I'm the Masked Ranger saying, keep moving forward, remember to stay at home, keep washing your hands, keep clean, and keep safe. Cheerio!